How Are You? That song is hot music by a group called Soho. When I was a young man, I was a club music head. I was a club head. Club kid. I loved all music. I went from being a kid listening to 70s pop music. Then as I grew up into the 80s and became a teenager, I was into heavy metal music and hard rock and classic rock and stuff like that. And then hip hop came along. I was late to the hip hop table. And then after hip hop, started getting to the age, go out into clubs and stuff. I used to go out to listen to house music. And house music is what you listen to as you're getting ready to leave the house on Friday night. You play this music, something like Soho, and just go and dance. Go to Sound Factory Bar, go to the Underground, go to 1018, go to the Limelight, stuff like that. It was just great music. And I remember Friday nights getting prepared to go out and have a good time. And music like this is playing in the background. And it was just great. And I remember being young and living in New York City and never thinking that it would ever change. That New York City would be the way it was forever. You know, like Soho, this song was, I mean, I drive my wife crazy. This was it. The Garage. And also, it's when I discovered that New York is a mixing pot. Excuse me. Had gum in my mouth. New York was a mixing pot. Because when you loved hip-hop, if you loved house music, right, you had to cross the cultures. The people who made house music and made the great parties. So a lot of people who are club heads never turned into being anti-gay. Because the gay scene, the hip-hop scene, the nightlife scene in New York, everybody kind of crossed. And I remember going to a place like the Garage, Sound Factory Bar and stuff like that. And the DJs played just enough hip-hop to keep the hip-hop heads in and play great house music, which a lot of the kids that were coming from the gay ballroom scene would come uptown, would come downtown and hang out with the cross cultures in Manhattan. And that's why the Cross Colors was a big brand later on because of that crossing of intersections of people. Follow Me was the joint, and it's one of the songs that my wife cannot stand. Marshall just put it in notes. My wife didn't understand freestyle music and stuff like that and how it was about the music. And yeah, it was maybe a little bit off key and stuff like that. And she just did not get it. And to this, whenever Follow Me comes on, people my age go crazy. And when my wife hears it, my wife is considerably younger than I am. But she's no spring chicken, but she is to me. That's a joke. But yeah, she can't stand it. It's like, why is this music off and what did it mean to you? It was important. But also, when you got into a club, when it didn't matter what you were wearing, didn't matter what you had on, when everybody intersected, and just when the beat dropped, and everybody's out on the floor, and like Follow Me is on, or someone could put all the house music classics in here, and literally being in a club where you could feel the floor bouncing, and I said, we're going to fall through into the basement. But everybody had that experience. Now, you might have gone outside and didn't cross outside. When you went back outside, you went to wherever your tribe was from. So if your tribe was hip-hop, if your tribe was black, if your tribe was bridge and tunnel, meaning you weren't from the city, you went back to your tribe. But everybody was equal on the dance floor inside the clubs in New York City. And I remember what I always say to people about New York City is, yeah, you bought extra clothes because you sweat through your clothes and stuff like that. My late friend Dwight Coy, my brother Dwight Coy, who passed away December 27th of last year, was the person who introduced me to, I like going to clubs that were like tourist traps. So I go to Limelight and stuff like that. And Dwight was like, nah, he goes, let's go to Sound Factory Bar. So I have to dress up, he's like, nah, he goes, you're going to be sweating and dancing all night. So that's what you went and you did. But I remember back in the 80s and 90s, I was still living home with my mom, just about to get married. I had, be honest with you guys, I had flunked out of 2 beautiful colleges. I had flunked out of 2 colleges, and I was working, making a tremendous amount of money for someone my age. If you are over the age of 30, I will tell you there was a point in New York City where you had to not want to work. When you got up in the morning on a Sunday and got the New York Times, there were so many jobs in the New York Times that it took you forever to weed through to find the job that paid the most money for the least amount of work. Imagine that minimum wage was $3 an hour, $3.85 an hour, and as something called a figure clerk, as a person who did nothing but input numbers into a computer to make a spreadsheet, I think the beginning salary was $12.50. And if you had a computer background like I did, you were making $15, $16, $17 an hour. This is in 1990, let's say. So I remember that, having a little bit of money in my pocket, no real bills, buying paintings, buying my first piece of artwork, getting my first American Express card and stuff like that. I remember thinking that New York, when you have money, New York is the most amazing place on earth. She is a terrible mistress. She is snooty, she is stuck up. She doesn't give you a time of day unless you have money. And when you have money in New York City, the way she treats you, she is a horrible, horrible, frightening mistress. But she shows you love. So I remember thinking that would never change, that New York would always be like that. When you first come into the city, you're driving in for the first time, and you're driving in from the Grand Central Parkway, and you come over that hump before you go into the Midtown Tunnel, and you see all of Manhattan in front of you. That is a beautiful feeling. That's why I love Manhattan so much. And you think that will never change. And then yesterday I showed you guys pictures from Times Square, how it's empty. And back then when we were kids, like Marshall and I and stuff like that, you went to Times Square to show how tough you were, to buy martial arts movies, to play video games at the arcades, and maybe visit questionable movie theaters. And then it changed and gentrified and became all clean and Disneyized and everything else. But it was still a great place. And now New York City is shut down, and it's frightening. It's off-putting. But, you know, the governor came on today and he said that he's not saying shelter in place, he's saying don't go to work. He's not saying shelter in place, but don't go to even family gatherings over 5 or 10 people. Only jobs that are completely necessary need to be filled. And actually, I guess all that starts Sunday. So tonight, Saturday, are probably the last 2 days that they're not going to hassle you if you are out and about. And it's really interesting. So it's really interesting to see the city that never sleeps in this kind of situation. It's strange. That's why I was playing house music. If I was a single man, when I was a single man in my 20s, I would be getting dressed to go out and try to take over the world. That was my deal. I'm going to get dressed and go hang out with Jesus Amable Reyes, Dwight Coy, William Lindsay, Holden Ashringa, who was Arthur Cuffey back then, and go to Manhattan. And I wish, if I had the ability, I would, take a nap first before you go out. I would definitely, literally, because I had so much money coming in, so much free income, buy clothes to wear out that night. And one of the things I loved to do back then was called popping tags. I never liked to wear the same thing out, even though people weren't seeing me. If I knew I wore something a couple weeks before I didn't want it or whatever. It was a beautiful thing, being young and rich or well off or even middle class in New York is a beautiful thing. So now the city is closed. And it's an interesting take on, it's interesting for me. I never thought I would see it. It would happen in other places. I never thought people in New York would listen. This is Bert taken out of context. And people in New York are actually paying attention and listening to the government. They're like, we're going to scale back and everything else. In my neighborhood here in the Bronx, which one stop up from Yankee Stadium is a neighborhood in the Bronx that reminds you of Williamsburg and Brooklyn. I don't think they want everyone to know about it because it's so vibrant and so full of energy. It's actually opposite me. I'm on the west side, it's towards the east side. of the Bronx, and it's one of those things where if my apartment is ridiculously low, all things considered, in rent and fees to purchase an apartment, and this is not exaggerating, I live in a nice sized alcove studio. It's actually pretty big. You guys saw I did from the alcove where my studio is, and now I'm sitting at my creation station at my desk. And the same size apartment on the other side is double my rent. Is literally double the rent. And the rentals are going away, and it's just people being able to buy them. And this used to be a rough area here in the Bronx, but things are changing. I'm telling everybody to not, again, don't panic, but understand that we are in different times, man. Things have changed. If you can shut down New York City. I know a lot of people want to visit their parents and stuff like that. Keep your mitts off your old folks. Don't hug them and kiss them up. You don't know what you have. It's very interesting to see this area, this vibrant area. Yankee Stadium area will be cranking up, getting ready for the season to start in a few days. And I'm pointing in direction. The stadium is that way. Yeah, it's right over there. The noise, you start hearing more noise and chatter at night because the weather got warmer. It got up to 70 degrees today, I think, in New York City. And right now, the only noise you're hearing in the background, the sound floor, is my fan. Literally, there is no noise. It's very little. Parents have their kids inside. The people are usually out on the street. Our friendly neighborhood trying to hustle up drug dealers even quiet. And that's the thing. My neighborhood is gentrifying. Keep it real with you. Across the street from my upcoming building is a large building full of young men who are maybe second generation drug dealers, and they're going to probably eventually be squeezed out because the neighborhood is gentrifying, because there are more police and stuff like that. And also the interesting thing in my neighborhood is that it is what I would call black gentrification. I do not like Dr. Boyce Watkins. Let's start off from there. We're going to keep this really quick. Hey, Jesus, if you're able to come on, let me know. Boyce Watkins, I think sometimes he's an idiot and sometimes he's a thief, but he did say one thing. He goes, black gentrification. Black gentrification being that if you're black and you have money, get with other black folks in a neighborhood or other people of your culture and buy out the stuff and don't run. Since I don't pay attention to him, I've been saying this for about a year. I'm saying there's so many neighborhoods, especially Brownsville, East New York, and Brooklyn, those neighborhoods are going to flip. Stop running away from them. If you run away from them, other people are going to move in there and it's going to be them. So black people should gentrify. Now, as a black gentrifier in my neighborhood, people look at me funny because they can tell I'm not really from the neighborhood and they resent me and my wife. But that's okay. The other people in my building who are doing the same thing, we're just taking advantage of an opportunity. But I'll tell you what makes me a jerk. The other day up the street, we find out that they're building a 9-story building. 9 stories, only 71 units, and each unit is going to get a parking space. So they're going to dig down and put parking under the building. And my complaint was that my neighborhood can be quiet and it's going to increase congestion and stuff like that. And how dare they? I just got here last March, and I'm tipping my nose up into the air to the people who are capitalizing on the fact that the neighborhood is getting better and building a large building that's going to be mixed use and stuff like that. Yes, I'm a terrible person. We're all terrible. One of the things I want to talk about tonight is my wife is a teacher for a school called Empire. It's a cosmetology school. Pretty good school. Nice big chain school or whatever. And I've worked in cosmetology schools before. And whenever you have young people around, young men and women get together, you have situations where they have their little relationships and the girls miss some time out of school because they're messing around with this boy and that boy or whatever. Boys coming up to school trying to profess their love, trying to get their girl back and stuff like that. And you think that's just part of the people growing up, our students in cosmetology school. You have people up into their 40s want to be cosmetologists, but a lot of the students are younger, post-high school to like 25. And lots of times it's easy. But sometimes when you're counseling the young ladies or whatever, you find that they have this situation with guys who don't know how to let go. And one of my students was in a situation where she was in a relationship with a young man. They were both in their 19 and 20. And if you live here in New York, you probably saw the story. It was on covered in the news and stuff like that, where a young lady was shot in the back in the salon she was working in by a boyfriend who did not want her, who wanted to stay with her. Let's say they were both 19 and 20 years old. And I'm saying love is not supposed to hurt. And love should not be a threat and stuff like that. But a situation where, as I'm talking about the city, this is just a side story where, thank God, she survived. She survived a man who could not let her go, and tried to kill her, but she turned and ran, and then took his own life. When he thought he shot her, thought he killed her, and took his own life. And I said, love is not supposed to hurt. Love is scary and stuff like that. So we're in a situation right now with the Me Too movement and Time's Up and stuff like that. And how do you teach young women how to live a life, and young men how to value their lives enough that you don't want to kill somebody who told you no? What do you do? What do you do to tell someone that love is not supposed to hurt? If he's hitting you, he doesn't love you. Are these messages not being passed forward? We are passing forward messages to women and also to people in LGBT relationships that abuse is not love. The two are not the same. If you have anything to share on that subject, you can call me up, 516-424-5902, 516-424-5902. I'll pull you up. We're going to keep this kind of short. Monica, Miss Royce, how are you? But a situation that's scary. That when I tell you that we've had situations in one of the schools that we worked in where the young boy couldn't take no for an answer, instead of trying to kill the young lady, he beat her up. We had situations where girls would come into class and we're like, what happened? He wouldn't let me, he came and got me from my house this morning, and he would not let me out of his car. So we sat in the parking lot for 2.5 hours, and this is one of the schools I was working in, doing financial aid, until one of the teachers saw the young lady in the car. Like, she saw the lady in the car in the morning. She didn't come into class. She went outside of the building to smoke a cigarette and saw the girl was still in the car with the young man. So she actually alerted the mall authorities and stuff like that. And the young lady was smart enough to say, look, if they come and get you, they're going to arrest you and stuff like this. So she played it off until she got into the building, and she was shaking and crying. I have a feeling that even in empowering women, there are lessons that have to be taught. Like, someone's got to get to the boys. I keep telling you, there's this thing, black girls are magic. Black boys are magic too. Children are magic, period. But there's got to be someone out there to speak to the boys, like, y'all can't do this. And there's got to be someone out there to tell the women that besides no meaning no, that what real love is supposed to look like. This is taken out of context. I would ask anybody out there, if you have a story to share, 516-424-5902. Hit it up. If not, if Mr. Reyes is on, we can talk a little bit about the current situation. I don't know if you heard, I was just playing a little bit of house music in the background on a Friday night in New York City, weather like this. You were going out to dance. If you weren't in church, a lot of people were in church, going to youth meetings and stuff like that. But for me, when I was a young man, post screwing up schools, working a good job, going out and trying to meet people, trying to date. And back then, dating was awesome. Kamar, how are you, Kamar? We were just actually discussing food with my wife before she left. She actually got a chance to step out of the house for a minute, which is good. She got a chance to get out while she still can. I think tomorrow's going to be very interesting in the city. If people start modified sheltering in place on Sunday, that tonight and tomorrow night, I think tomorrow's going to be cold actually, but those are 2 nights here in New York where people are going to be able to get out and just walk around and breathe in the air before the governor starts bothering us and saying that on Sunday we have to really limit our interactions and stuff like that. It's scary. But so like I said, one of the things I want to talk about besides that is the idea of, what do you tell young men so that they value the lives of young women and don't try to beat them? I was watching videos of these guys who are talking about drill rap. Drill is a new style of rap. that's out here right now, and drill has a lot of things that are very pro male. A lot of the stuff that's in it, and I was just watching videos and stuff on Vlad TV and stuff like that. And a lot of the drill rappers refer to women in dialogue. Some of them, not all of them, that I thought we had buried. So it appears that, there's some rappers who are emo and stuff like that, and they seem to be more advanced, but they still talk about shaking booties and stuff like that. But it appears that no one seems to be telling the men how to react, and no one's been telling the women, young ladies, that this is not good. I mean, you know what you see. You know what you see, and you might emulate what you see. But the idea that some women are attracted to guys who appear to be hyper masculine, but that hyper masculinity comes at the cost of calling you a bitch, or marginalizing you, or whatever. And we'll talk about it honestly. I mean, wanting someone forceful to take control of a situation is different than someone who's verbally abusive, and then that switches over into a situation where you can't have friends, you can't make telephone calls, you can't talk to your mama, everything is concerning him. If you ever tell him that you have an issue with the stuff that he says, he will share to you and beat you down by saying, my life sucks and you're the best thing I have, so my problems are way bigger than yours. Those are the things that you come up to, and there's got to be a way for young people to fight that. Yes, come on. When food talk's involved, I'll definitely let you know. So it's one of those things where, what do you do? And even like when I was involved in youth ministry, I understand now, because I think a lot of things that are just male are considered toxic masculinity, so I don't use that term. But I also saw toxic masculinity even in the idea that male pastors' kids, can be very misogynistic, and it's carried down as being masculine. So in some cases, you have pastors who are passing it down to their kids, treating women as lesser, which is not, cool. But that's what they do. So you have those kind of situations that come along, and that's not cool. So as I'm sitting here, as people are now taking times and they're social distancing, maybe there's a chance in there for someone to reach out to a young lady and ask her what she's doing. How are you doing with relationships? And even for women, there are women who are in abusive relationships who are in their 40s and 50s, where they've never faced, and it seems they can't tell the difference between, we say good and bad touch. How do you end up in those situations? I would have reached out to Jess Garcia, because I know she's good at stuff like this. I think it's 6 o'clock where she is on the West Coast, so she's not going to be able to bring her in. But I was hoping we can talk about that. Hey, Mr. Reyes, if you want to come in, definitely for a few minutes, we can definitely talk about that. But yeah, it's Friday night, and I was playing house music, remembering how good it was being a kid, living in New York City, going out listening to house music like you hear in the background, and just really the vibrancy of the city, and being involved in relationships, being able to go out and meet someone at the library, on 42nd Street, on my job, in church, shopping in Macy's and stuff like that. And I never understood how people lost that ability. Maybe it was the fact that when we were younger, we were on the prowl all the time. Men and women were always looking to interact with each other. And so it was easier. You always knew where they were, they knew where you were, and it was easy. I was explaining to a friend of mine, I was like, it's so easy to meet people and make a connection if you just talk to them. But it's not. I guess it's not really that easy. But I think also, if people aren't interacting with each other, you don't know how to treat each other. Like, who is telling young men that the more women you collect, the more of a man you are? Who are telling women that if you have a guy who is abusive, that means he loves and cares about you? Like, where are those things coming from, and how do you eliminate them? That's something that's really important. It's just something that crossed my mind. I think it's important, and the fact that it cut close to my wife because one of her students was involved. And the young lady is probably going to do fine and everything else. And she was not killed. The story was in the media here in the Bronx, New York, and all around the city. Someone was shot at a beauty salon on a Sunday, and it's rough. It's a rough situation. What you do is you just hope that now this young man is probably not going to survive his attempt to kill himself, and that's terrible. But there should have been someone that could have seen the mental health issue coming, but I don't know how. I wish I had someone on who was a mental health professional to tell somebody, here are the warning signs that the person you love may not be able to love you in the way that you want to, and in a way that's safe for you. There's got to be something like that where people can tell you that. I don't think someone who has a mental health issue, I'm not saying that they're unworthy of love, but getting involved with them might be an issue if it's a danger to you. And when do you pull back? When do you pull away? This is Bert taken out of context. So, like I said, this weekend is probably the last weekend for a while where we can actually go out up until Sunday and interact with people. Jonathan Summerstein, how are you? Are you still in New York, Jonathan? I saw your name on here once in a while. I always put you and Mark Kornfeld together. You guys were like Batman and Robin, or Batman and Batman, when we were kids. Nice to see you on here. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're sequestered in place and everything else. I talked earlier about how Facebook is really cracking down and doing really weird things to people's algorithms and stuff like that, and trying to change your post, and they eliminated my posts and stuff like that. And I said, Facebook isn't evil. It's just that it's Facebook's ball, and they can do anything they want with it. And so that's why earlier today, Facebook dropped out of my posts. Some of them are satirical, some of them were just interactions, some of them were great shows I did with Jesus Amable Reyes. They blocked them and dropped them. I didn't put them back up because I was actually doing family stuff today, but I'll put them back up. And I feel like it's okay for Facebook. It's wrong for them to do it, but it's okay for them to do it because Facebook, this is their platform. When you put up stuff, you're at their whims and at their whimsy, and that's what happens. I don't see really people putting up stuff that's dangerous or disinformation, but I do understand where Facebook is concerned about not wanting to let you put things up that are crazy. So yeah, I kind of understand what's going on with all of that. I don't know if Jesus Reyes, if they were taking stuff down on his. I think they did it to Rohan Crawford. They also dropped some of the stuff that he put up there also, and it's rough, you know. Monica Roy says, I think it has to do with self-esteem. You put someone down so you can feel better about yourself, and hurt people. Going back to that point, yeah, with hurt people hurting people. The idea, like a lot of young men will describe women with a pejorative term by calling, excuse my language, a bitch and everything else. And, you know, they big themselves up, but they want to be attached to a woman who they think is less than them, and they actually verbally abuse them to feel better. I think that's something. So how do you tell women or men or anybody who's being abused to open their eyes? Like, one of the funny things is women will tell me all the time that if you have a friend and she has a guy that she's with, right, and you know she likes the person, let's say when they're together and they're fighting, you have to measure how strong your response is to the bad things the guy does, because if you react too strong and they get back together, then you'll be the odd person out. You'll lose your friend. And I've heard that before also, that you have to be careful, you have to follow your friend's play, unless it's life-threatening. Like some woman will say, you know what, I knew she was going to take that Nigerian back again anyway, so I just said, and now they're back together. And there are other friends who are like, I can't keep my peace. You and this guy are not working. He's putting you in a position. You're not the person you're supposed to be. You need to bounce it out. You need to get out of it. I know someone said one of the warning signs is, like I said, if he isolates you. And I'm not saying you get to the point, there are levels of abuse that don't rise to R. Kelly levels. There are levels where a person saps your self-esteem, makes you question yourself. If someone is constantly telling you that you wouldn't be anywhere without me and stuff like that, that's an obvious sign. But there's got to be other signs. I think what happens is I see young women who are already attaching themselves with men that don't want to be with them as if it's something courageous. And the interesting part with that is that a lot of us say that sometimes women get to the point where they're not all in. That's for a complete other show. Sometimes you meet a woman and she's not all in because she's been hurt beforehand, or a guy who wants to be with you but he's not all in because he was previously hurt. And you gotta work that out. When you look at people, I wish people just had something on their forehead that said, "Hi, my name is so and so, and this is the amount of damage that I went through, and these are the issues that I can't let go of, but I'm still a good person. Do you want to be with me?" It will be a lot easier that way. And praying for discernment doesn't always work, because one of the things that love does is love rips off your, love puts blinders on you and limits your vision, and all you see is tunnel vision of the person that you're in love with. So you're fighting to discern stuff, and your vision's getting narrower, and the narrower your vision gets, the more you miss things on the outside. It's the nature of falling in love. I have a good friend of mine who said, and we talked about it on the show, the person said that they have relationships going forward. They had been through a divorce or whatever, and they said going forward, they don't have the energy it takes to fall in love anymore. They said they don't have the energy for it. However, they'll share their life with somebody, but they're not going to go all in. They don't have the energy for it. That's what happens. That's one of the things that happens when you're overwhelmed and stuff like that. But Monica Royce, thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. Hurt people hurt people. I think that talk therapy works and stuff like that. All of that being said, this is going to sound weird. If you meet someone and you love them and they have an issue they're working through, it doesn't always disqualify them they have an issue. You have to really look at it and see where they are. Like falling in love with someone who has a bipolar disorder, falling in love with somebody who has PTSD. Those are things that happen nowadays. A lot of people with bipolar disorders, PTSD and stuff like that, and they feel they deserve to be loved, and are you prepared to love them? That's the issue. Pardon me 1 second. Are you equipped to be in a relationship with somebody who's damaged? And the thing is, because you can't tell somebody you are not fit for love because you're hurt. That's not fair. But you can tell somebody that before you try to get really deep with somebody else, you need to work on yourself. So in that situation with the young lady who was nearly killed in her salon on Sunday, I'm not sure what all the warning signs were. That this young man was desperate and had that "if I can't have you, no one can have you" situation. And you also worry about someone like that. You worry about their parents. How do you survive the fact that your child marginalized somebody else's child? That you have to bury your child because he committed suicide, but he also tried to kill somebody else's child. How do you reach out to them? Because the knee-jerk reaction could be from them that you're a terrible parent, and therefore that's why your kid tried to kill my kid. That amount of grace, the amount of grace required to, one, accept the condolences of the other person's, from the other person, and not to hate their child for what their child did to yours, and then trying to move on. It's hard. It's a lot to ask of someone. And a lot of people think stuff should be on microwave. It could take years of healing, and it might never happen. But it's a good thing that she survived. I think that leaders, youth leaders, churches, families need to teach girls and boys from young ages that they matter. Right now, what you generally have a lot of is people telling girls that they matter and that young boys are obstacles. That young boys are obstacles, and no one seems to be taking up for young boys and working on their mindset to make them better people. Hovala and Rohan Crawford on the show always say that if you keep fixing black girls and you don't fix black boys, there'll be no black boys for these fixed black girls to make families with. So you got to reach out to the boys. The boys are important. Trying to teach your kids, and also I think it's one of the important things is trying to teach your sons that not everything that you feel is wrong. Not everything that you say is wrong, but you got to learn to control yourself. Even your desires, some of the stuff that about you is there for a reason, but you have to learn to control them. A real man controls his urges. A real man controls his situation. A real man does not necessarily control the woman in his life, but he makes a situation. You know, you got to put those things in. It becomes a deep conversation. So yeah, we can talk about relationships and stuff like that at another time. But that's one of the things. Instead of not only just talking about COVID-19 and coronavirus and stuff like that. But again, folks, if you're going to be out and about this weekend in limited function, breathe in the air. It was really funny to see the Cherry Blossom Festival. I think it was yesterday in Washington, D.C., and see just a smattering of people enjoying the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. It was very interesting. But we're living in different times now, you know. And the thing is, again, even if they tell New Yorkers, my show emanates from New York, I'm a New Yorker, even if they tell us here in New York that, you know, we should just hunker down in place for a week, don't leave your house, just stay inside, take it in stride. We're New Yorkers. We are New Yorkers. We deal with stuff. If you remember back on 9/11, there were some stockbrokers who were like, can you find a place for us to work? Because if we don't work, we don't make any money. The entire country was in mourning and stuff like that. There was a few stockbrokers who were like, can we open the Wall Street? Can we? The compassionate thing, of course, was to keep it closed. But these are New Yorkers. And some of them were like, yeah, we can mourn, but we got to make money. That's what we do. So for New York to be so quiet and closed down was very interesting. And it just made me think back to when I was a kid, and I thought, I still think New York is the greatest city on earth, and I always will till the day I'm no longer here. Until the day I join the choir eternal and leave this mortal coil, I will always love New York City. And it was just really weird to see my city so quiet. You know, anyway, I played house music for the house music heads. What's up, Marshall? I hope you enjoyed that bit. It was just one song, and it's a song that's mostly music that the Facebook algorithm will have to search and find, so they will not mute part of this broadcast. If they do, I've recorded anyway, so I'll play it back unmuted. But I love you guys, and this is quick. Like I said, this is a quick one. I didn't get a chance to get on with Jesus. I guess we weren't talking about a subject that he was interested in tonight, but tomorrow we will do the normal 2 live streams. We will revisit, did you watch Blazing Saddles? Did you watch the documentary Godfather? Did you watch either one of the 2 documentaries about Quincy Jones? You should check those things out. And I hope that being sequestered with your loved ones this week does not put undue stress on each other. If you have a big enough apartment, big enough space, you don't have to be up under each other. Go and do your separate ways and come back together. For the parents who are homeschooling with your kids, God bless you, cover you. Don't beat them. They don't learn that way. Try to make it fun for them. And I also don't think it's necessary to have it go 5, 6, 7 hours a day. They're kids. Just keep enough in to keep the knowledge inside their heads. To all my friends who are health professionals, God bless you and cover you. You know, may you not get sick. You are essential to the people around you, the people that you care for, and the people that you love. And I hope that you guys stay safe, especially my bro, Dr. Mark Watson. Be careful out there. You have a lot of friends that are nurses. So all the nurses are on the front line. You are the ones who administer the care and stuff like that. Just please be safe. Don't bring anything home to your kids and stuff like that. All right, so I'm out of here. That was it. Really quick one. Please share it around if you want to support us. And especially now at these trying times, financial times, please support Taken Out of Context. The $5 donation is greatly appreciated. And tomorrow I'll tell you about my adventures. I left the house today and walked part of my normal routine, and really quiet up here in the Bronx. And I went to the supermarket, and it took me an hour and a half just to pick a handful of items up. The one store was really crowded, but the only store that it was crowded didn't have anything. But Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are awesome. Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are awesome. Anything you need to have in your house, if you can't get it from your regular supermarket, get it from them before they shut down. You know, it's really important. All right, so I'm out of here. Bert, Taken Out of Context. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. It's like almost 9:30 when I'm recording this, so enjoy the rest. Like I said again, usually when I'm doing this, you guys can't hear it because of the sound floor, but there's usually fire trucks, police cars, kids playing. It's a Friday night. It's 60-something degrees outside. It is dead quiet in the Bronx. It's very eerie to be so quiet. I wonder what it's like out there in Brooklyn or wherever you are. It was very interesting. All right. So do your homework, and we guys will talk tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. This is Bert, taken out of context. For all of my numerous co-hosts and all the people who always sign in and those who give us financial support, I greatly appreciate you. All right, so have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. A good evening. Can I play one more song? Let me see. Bear with me. Can I get one more song in? Hopefully they will not ban it. What's another good house music song? Anybody out there also a club head that liked house music? Anybody? We'll just go out with this.